let me say a special good morning to listeners, those of you via Classic Radio, whether it's 105.5 or 105.9. Good Wednesday morning to you. Our viewers, GBN TV, you viewing Channel 7, Channel 11, or Channels 20. Good morning to you also, and welcome to another edition of To The Point. I'm your host, GT. I'll be around with you until it's 10 a.m. this morning. Certainly welcome to have you once again, especially those of you who are viewing via social media platforms, whether it's our Facebook page, the YouTube channels, GBM's webpage. I want to wish you a happy day, and certainly welcome and thanks for being part of To The Point for today. I do have a guest with me this morning, and I have Dr. Michelle Sabrena Alexander, and let me welcome her and say good morning. She's via the Zoom platform this morning. Let me say good morning to Dr. Alexander. Good morning to you, Doctor. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning, and good morning to the listening public.
All right. Certainly welcome, and nice to have you with us this morning. Now, before we proceed this morning, I tell our viewing and listening audience something about Dr. Michelle, as simple as it possibly can. I'm looking at a lengthy bio before me, but I'm probably going to leave you to do it in your own way of interpreting or saying stuff about yourself, as simple as you can. Tell us about yourself before we proceed this morning.
Okay, so my name is Michelle Sabrena Alexander. I am from a remote village in St. Andrews, which is Richmond. I am very passionate about social issues, especially child sexual abuse, juvenile crimes, mental health. It is my goal. I would consider myself, well, I would like to be a social scientist, and I think I'm almost there. I'm also the founder of Bridge Learning Institute, where we offer second chance opportunities to adults who weren't given the opportunity to complete their secondary and tertiary level education. So that's a little bit about.
Yeah.
Most importantly, I'm also a mother.
All right, great. That's about you in a nutshell, and it certainly has said a lot. You mentioned something that sort of tickled my interest just a wee bit in terms of, the educational part for individuals who may not have, completed their education. You got into a stage, and we know it happens for various reasons why individuals may not have completed education. Why? What? Tell us something about that particular institute you're part of before we proceed even more. And, there probably someone who is listening, and, they may want to, be part of this or get into it and learn about it. Tell us something about that particular institute.
Okay, so as you claim, there are many reasons as to why persons were not able to finish their education, be it primary, secondary, or tertiary. As an individual, coming from a very humble background, I have seen what education was able to do for me and those around me. Coming from a humble background, being poor, not knowing how you would reach in university and all these other things, there were some persons who stepped forward and really made a difference. Should I continue?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Oh, right. And made a difference.
I know I distracted you there a wee bit. My bad.
Okay. So the idea of Bridge was to pay it forward, to create an avenue or where persons who had the desire to add educational value to themselves but didn't have the opportunity would have gotten that opportunity. So in 2020, we started during the lockdown, we started offering these online classes where persons had access to the subject. So we offer 15 CXC subjects, 7 CAPES. It is accessed online. It is held in the afternoon time, so we give the adults enough time to get home, to see about their children, to complete their chores, and from the comfort of their homes, they can log in and get access to the classes that we offer. Thus far, we've had a very high success rate. Our success rate is in the 80s, so the very first year, we sent 139 students. We had 127 being successful. Last year, we sent 215. We had 201 being successful. So it's the success rate is really, really high, and it speaks to the need for our citizens to be educated and be given that level of second chances.
All right, that's happy to hear that. I'm also happy to hear that folks gravitated towards it when an opportunity like that presented itself. You know, sometimes folks always feel they are left out, especially when you get to a particular age in life and you feel that my education level may have stopped because I've gotten to that age. But you were saying that there's opportunities also that the option of always continue to learn is always there. Now, let's switch the conversation a wee bit now. Let's get into, we've been hearing a lot about it, you know, over the past couple of years, even up to recently. Juvenile crime seemed to be something that seemed to be, you know, on the uprise, if I could do that. I'm not sure if there's any stats that you may be able to share. But from your perspective, in terms of juvenile crime, how of an issue is that in this beautiful island of ours?
Okay, so if I must add, I've spent almost 5 years working at the juvenile center. That's prior. So the issue of juvenile crime is indeed on the rise, and it is a phenomenon that should interest all of us. It should be something that we're all concerned about. We see a lot of juveniles. I don't have the exact statistics, but you see a lot of juveniles passing through the juvenile center. Sometimes some of the cases are extreme, some are not always that extreme. But again, as I said, it is indeed a call for concern, especially in Grenada. One of the things I've realized is that we are very reactive. We don't always find proactive ways to deal with these issues. So from my observation, again, there would be statistics to show, but I don't have it. There is a very high recidivism rate. So persons commit crime, they go through the center, they leave, they commit other crimes. If they're under the age of 18, they're back in the center. If they're over the age of 18, then they graduate to Her Majesty Prison. Now, when they get there, that is another issue in itself, because there isn't a particular section. They're not sectionized. Okay, well, this is the juveniles that have committed crime, and they would be, let's say, Section A or Section B. They're mixed with persons who are hardened criminal, and as humans, behaviors are learned. So they learn even more criminal behaviors. We have this false ideal or false idea of masculinity, where some people perceive masculinity, for example, how much crime they could commit, how much laws they could break, right? And because you have children or juveniles being influenced by the other factors, so you have your social media, you have their friends, you have schools, and these are things that parents, you may be strict at home, but these are things you don't have control over. And because they're persuaded by these little things, they think, okay, I want to fit in that crew, I want to fit in that gang, so I need to commit a crime so I could get that level of respect. So that is one of the issues that we're dealing with. Yes, we have a lot of rehabilitative measures in place, but I think from my personal perspective, there needs to be more. We need to start looking at reintegration programs. So for example, someone commits a crime and they're sent to the juvenile center. What is there to ensure that when the time is up, they leave the center, they are returning to society to become functional members? Would we look at, let's say, for example, the Ministry of Youth, where we have the empowerment program, where we have the money, would we try to get them into these programs so that they become functional? There needs to be some sort of marriage, and I think that's where the conversation is going as it relates to policies. Marriage between the different ministries as to how we would curb the issues or the incidences of juvenile crimes. Because if persons are committing crime and they're going back to the same environment, it's like you're going back to a revolving door. You came in, you didn't learn any skills, you didn't add any value to yourself, then we can't expect any much changes taking place when they are released into society. Another thing that is important, and I think that we're lacking, is doing follow-ups. As individuals, we have to understand that if on a personal level, right, we all have issues and challenges that we are dealing with. For children, I think they too have issues and challenges they are dealing with. So sometimes dealing with them in isolation may not get the result that we're looking for. Sometimes we have to meet with the parents, meet with the other aspects of the life, maybe the school, see how we could bring everything together to ensure that, the whatever they're facing is addressed and that everybody is in it together for the greater good.
Something I want to ask, and something has always been a concern of mine as an individual, as an individual myself being in society. Rehabilitation seems to be a big problem, even though from youngsters to adults. Can you see they go through the system from time to time? There are individuals who may have spent a number of years in a particular institution, let's say the prison. You speak of youngsters going to the juvenile detention center. They may spend some time there themselves. And you see they're coming back out and continue to do the same thing. So is there a problem with the rehabilitation in terms of are they not serious about rehabilitating themselves? Why do we find individuals repeating those things over again? What is the main reason from a doctor's perspective you see that happening?
I won't say there's a problem with rehabilitation. What I would say is that rehabilitation in itself would not work, right? You could rehabilitate all.
Why would it not work? Rehabilitation by itself.
No, it cannot work by itself, because remember, rehabilitation is one aspect, but you also have reintegration, you also have reformation, and I'll give an example. So for example, I committed a crime. Let's say I committed a crime 10 years ago, right? I was imprisoned. I got all the psychosocial assistance that I needed. But my time for being released is upon me. So we're talking 10 years ago, right?
Yes.
10 years ago, we lived in a society that maybe was not as modernized as it is today. So that's one of the issues. So now I have to deal with a society that is more advanced, a society that maybe I am not fully equipped to deal with. Secondly, there is a stigma that says, oh, if somebody comes out from jail, you shouldn't hire them, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do the other. Mind you, I received all the psychosocial help that I needed. So I must have changed my behavior. I must have realized that what I did was wrong. I must have found other ways to channel my emotions and channel my anger. So here am I. I'm back out in society. I'm trying to find a job. No one is willing to hire me. 5-10 years down the line, I still have that particular criminal record, still being faced with the same issues. No jobs, nothing that I can fall back on. Then in that case, the rehabilitation that I receive, although it may have had an impact on me, the other factors, the other variables, when you consider the other variables at play, it doesn't allow me as an individual to be functional or to be my best self, because there are not systems in place that supports me trying to, divert from that particular course of action or that particular behavior. So that's the point that I'm making, that rehabilitation in itself would not work. We have to look at the process of reintegration, and we must also consider reformation. So I believe, in my perspective again, that let's say somebody was sentenced to 5 years. You're on the fourth year, you know that they're going to be released, let's say, in the next year. Maybe you start engaging the society, the community where they was from, to tell the people in the community that, listen, yes, we know that John committed that particular crime. We know maybe that there is a level or a sense of fear, but he faced his time. He received whatever punishment, he received that. So now we're trying to reintegrate him back into society. We want you to accept him. We want you to work with him. We want you to not remind him of the crimes that he had committed, we don't want you to do anything like that. We would also follow up to ensure that John gets a job and John is functional. So whether it takes working with the private sector to ensure that there's opportunity for these individuals, but rehabilitation in itself, for itself, I don't think it's
It's going to work.
effective.
Certainly understand it from that perspective there from you. We due for a break. Let's take it. We come back and chit-chat some more. Stay with us, folks. It's to the point for today, Wednesday the 17th. We're coming right back. Stay with us, folks.
Do you know, when you play the games of the National Lotteries Authority, you are supporting sports, culture, and nation building in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit-Martinique?
Hi, I am Junior Murray, cricket coach, sports enthusiast, and a former West Indies cricketer. I endorse the games of the NLA 100%. For the past 40 years, the NLA has been funding many sporting activities, including competition for schools and clubs, and for athletes to participate in overseas tournaments such as the Carifta Games and the regional cricket tournaments. Additionally, they made it possible for you, the public, to view local, regional, and international tournaments from the comfort of your homes. For those reasons, I play the game of the NLA. Even if I do not win, I know Grenada always wins.
Yes, when you play all the games, the NLA in turn supports sports, culture, and nation-building activities throughout the Tri-Island state.
The children are growing up so fast. When I leave here, I am going to take Tevin to get his MMR vaccine.
Kayla was supposed to have another appointment for that same vaccine. But Natalie, I'm not sure. On social media, they're saying that it's not safe. Plus, I can afford to miss work.
Girl, the vaccines are safe for decades. They protect our children. You got vaccinated, and I'm sure you're all right.
Yes, but these diseases aren't out now.
Grenada is open to childhood diseases from all over the world. Today, we have a choice to get our children vaccinated or not. Go get it done, girl. It won't take long.
I suppose so. Anything for my princess.
I want to be protected.
Check your doctor or the Ministry of Health to get the information on immunization against childhood diseases, including HPV and polio, and COVID-19 for elderly persons and persons living with non-communicable diseases.
On Saturday, July 29, Montrouge Plainfield will be transformed into a sea of grills as food, fun, and friends collide. It's the 10th annual Maggie King of the Grill competition. The best chef and barbecue kings and queens compete for cash, a new grill, and the title of Maggie King of the Grill. Come savor the flavors. Try to bust the ice cold bar and let the kids have their way in the bouncing castles, pony rides, slides, and games. Try your hand at dominoes or the beer and leg competition and win instant cash. Come 7 p.m., you go stateside to enjoy performances from top local acts. It's a whole evening of fun at the Maggie King of the Grill, Saturday, July 29 at the Montrouge Plainfield. Gates open from 12 noon. $10 get you on the inside. Powered by Maggie, Hot 98, and GBN Television.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. It's to the point for today, Wednesday, the 17th day of May. And with me this morning, we have Dr. Michelle Sabrena Alexander. She was with me this morning. And Dr. Sabrena, Dr. Michelle Sabrena Alexander. Let me get all the names in. Good morning and welcome back once again. I want to continue on the before the break. We were speaking in terms of rehabilitation. I want to ask what's the role in terms of society? How does society fits in, especially when it comes to rehabilitation, especially for younger folks in a society as Grenada? How does society actually? What role can society play in helping in terms of rehabilitation? Is that ticklish a wee bit?
I don't think so. Let me see how best I can answer that. So I think society, by extension, everybody have a part to play, right? most of the issues we see children being faced with are sometimes because of socialization. Sometimes they don't have the correct role models, proper role models that they look up to. So as members of society, I think our role is never ending in the sense that we have a role to play in ensuring that our children, whether they're ours or not, is equipped with the social facts, so the proper norms, the proper values that would help them to be functional members. So one of the things I've realized is that things happen, and instead of us as individuals taking a proactive way to deal with it, we take it and we post it on social media. So a child may commit a crime. Let's say, for example, they go in a store, they steal something. Instead of trying to understand why, and I'm not in no way saying that stealing is right, but instead of trying to understand why, we apprehend that child, we call that child all sorts of names, we take their pictures, we post it on social media. Sometimes what we do is we miss an opportunity. We miss an opportunity to have a conversation with that child and to find out, okay, tell me the reason why you're stealing. And maybe in having that conversation, you may realize that the child is hungry, the child didn't have anything to eat, maybe the child don't have any support systems. So sometimes that's where we fail. So I think that's one of the things we can do as members of society, to be more proactive, be a little bit more humane, try to find out why people do what they do. Yes, in most instances, you have people doing things that it is wrong. It is, and I cannot condone and say it's correct. It is wrong.
Because it goes back to the nature. It goes back to the nature of the crime that's been committed. Also, sometimes it could have that adverse effect on the particular on society, the community that they return to. The crime that you committed may have been so heinous that the community may not want to gravitate to you anymore, even though you are a youngster at the time that it may have happened. But you wanting to integrate back could be a problem. So I understand society may have a bit of resistance sometimes, but then it takes one or two within the society themselves to have a change of thought or change of heart in order to get that individual to get back to a sense of normalcy. Would you agree with me on that?
I would agree. And that's why I said you don't just go and tell the community to accept that person. You walk along with them the same way you're walking along with the perpetrator of that particular crime or who committed the criminal act.
All right. Now, another aspect that we see happening these days, there are lots of individuals who may have traveled to other countries in the world, depending on the how the circumstances roll out for them. They get themselves involved in crime. You understand? They go to prison and so forth in other countries. Then they return back to Grenada, and what's your take in terms of how individuals like that should be dealt with? From a doctor point of view, in terms of who you associate yourself with individuals of that nature, in terms of conversations you may have. Because then we see these individuals now start committing these same crimes also. They are deported, they come back to Grenada, and they settle in for a week or two, some less. You understand? And you see most of the crimes we hear happening are individuals who have been deported back to the country. How can that be dealt with?
I think we need to look at it from a cultural perspective, and I say cultural. Let's say someone coming, so we have to ask ourselves, are we equipped? Do we have what it takes to deal with persons who are deported, and maybe they're deported because of criminal acts or criminal activities? So I say culture because sometimes the nature or the degree of the crime is unmatched to what we have here in Grenada and what it is we're dealing with. So first, we need to understand this individual, maybe we should have a profile, see the type of crime they committed, whether or not we have the resources here to deal with it because they're coming back. We cannot deny them, they're coming back. Whether we have the resources to deal with them, deal with the extent of the criminal activities they were deported for. So I think that is where we need to begin looking at it, because sometimes the reality is we lack the resources to deal with these sort of individuals. And again, one of the challenges we have in Grenada is follow-ups. So is there a database where we could list these individuals and say, okay, well, Tom was deported from Canada or America and he live in St. Andrew, or Dick is living in St. John. Are we checking up on these individuals periodically? Because remember, there are other factors here, because if you're living abroad and you're just deported, that could have some form of psychological impact on the individual, because you're accustomed with this particular lifestyle. You're back here in Grenada, everybody is looking at you with disdain. Again, you cannot get a job. So that starts creating other issues for the individual. So I think it's how we deal and how we treat with these issues would determine,
Do you think there's a process that the individuals of that nation should go through in terms of, the authorities? Maybe this person maybe need to be integrated in some part of the island that they have parents. Okay, sometimes these individuals may have left the country at pretty young ages, at a young age, I might well say that, and go to other countries, get themselves involved into crime and so forth. Now they return. Should there be a process that these individuals should have gone through before they are allowed back into society as a whole? Do you think?
I don't think I could speak to a process or say there should be a process, because you can't have a process if you don't have no feasibility study, if you don't have anything like that. But at least I think there should be, again, some sort of reintegration. Well, yeah, so there should be a process. There should be some form of reintegration process. So the deported, maybe you let them know, because things may have changed. So you reintegrate them in a sense that this is what you're dealing with. Maybe we can offer this type of psychosocial programs. Maybe these are the avenues you could go through so that you can get a job. So maybe something like that may work. But if we're just taking them back and they just left in the society, not doing anything, frustrated, I think it would fester. It would fester to problems that we are not really equipped to deal with, like what we're seeing today.
I mean, you yourself being an advocate for, social change and so forth, in terms of, individuals when they do get themselves, involved in criminal activity. What would you like to see as an individual who has that advocate for change? What would you like to see, done that's maybe not been done in Grenada, especially when it comes to youngsters? So we kind of going back a wee bit there now, especially when it comes to youngsters who get themselves involved in activities of that nature. What kind of advocacy you would like to see, or what change would you like to see in terms of when an individual get themselves involved in issues of that nature?
Okay, so what I would like to see is that we take more proactive approach. I would also like to see a collaboration between the different ministries, right? As I said earlier, so if you're looking at juvenile crimes and juveniles committing crime and juveniles being placed in the juvenile center, before they leave, they should be equipped with the skills, whatever skills that is needed, so that they could become more functional members of society. So, for example, the Ministry of Social Development, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Youth, these ministries should be working together. So on one end, you have the rehabilitation, and another end, you have empowerment, employment, and education. So you give these individuals something that they could fall back on. We live in also a society where things are changing, where their behaviors are being influenced by social media and all these other platforms. So I think now is the time where we should have programs in schools where you work along with children, where you identify children who have behavioral issues, and maybe you bring in counselors, maybe you bring in persons who committed crime before. So at least they can have a better understanding and a better appreciation as to crimes. If they commit a crime, this would be the result. If they change their behavior, this would be the result. So here we bring in divergent programs, so you could divert the behavior. So for another thing you could do, let's say I commit a crime against another individual. Getting me and that individual together, where the individual could explain, okay, this is how you made me feel when you committed that crime. This is the effect it's had on me. Because sometimes we do things not thinking about how the other party or how the other person may feel. So if we try to divert the behaviors, I guess we would be able to see a reduction in the incidences of these crimes being committed. Because in itself, if you just have the rehabilitation center doing their part, and they do a fantastic job. They rehabilitate that individual. That person have a change in their behavior. They're now equipped with skills. They have CXC, they have CBQ, they have everything. But you put them back into society and nothing changed. It's like spinning top in mud. So I believe all these different agents need to come together and work as one. There needs to be some level of collaboration.
As you said, collaboration is needed at all levels in terms of getting it back. We do have some, of course, we've been getting a lot of calls for the last, we're going to entertain this caller. They may have a question they may like to ask. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. Your guest said she has a doctorate. I wanted to know a doctorate in what particular area? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, caller.
So I didn't say I said, or said my introduction didn't read. So I was conferred a doctorate in humanitarianism.
All right. Guess again.
So that was in the bio.
All right. Let's entertain another caller. We drew for a break, but let's entertain another caller and then we move forward. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, and how are you? Morning to the lady.
Good morning.
Yeah, well, what the lady is saying, explaining there is a lot. I will tell you. We also had one of these things here before. We used to call him a Rose, the Dodge. And Mr. Ben Roberts was in charge. And I know one of the things he used to teach there was boxing. Right. Secondly, I live in South America, and I have a little experience of what I see they did there. They even have a van, and the place was named Boys Ranch, and it marked Boys Ranch, and the van have a number on it. From the first, when I look at what I saw when they opened this new place they're talking about, from the time I saw it, I said, no, they're going wrong because the area is too small. In the Boys Ranch that I'm talking about, there's someone there to teach these people electrical, plumbing, masonry, all these things, and they even have a little chapel there where they can go and pray and do all these things. So to begin with, the area is too small because they even have animals like goat and sheep to they feed that. So all that is a training. And then secondly, what they have to do is with the government or the Ministry of Social Affairs, when these guys are coming out from there, what they have to do, they have to have a link with some business place and make that mandatory that they will take them there to this business place and have a little interview with them, because from there, if they come out there Friday, Monday they'll go and start to work in that business place. And the people in the business agree to know that is a help you kind of trying to bring them back. So they're not going home and then they have to find some 2 and 4 months after they get a job somewhere. No, it's a link to, as the lady said, you can't let them integrate them back, so they're going to change. You have to have the thing ready for them, on the go, ready, steady, goes. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you there so much for your contribution this morning. And the caller is so right in terms of the comments he made, Doc, in terms of the reintegration into society and so forth. Anything you want to add into what the caller mentioned, said?
He's correct, because there, as I said, there has to be some form of collaboration, and not just with the private sector. Yes, you could have the private sector as well, but we have systems that are already in place. And as I said earlier, you have things like the Empower program, you have the Imani program. So it's a matter of having systems in place. And another thing, again, I have seen incidences where a child may have committed a crime and they were sentenced, let's say, for 9 months in the juvenile center. However, maybe they signed up for a program that was exceeding the 9 months. But based on the law, based on the fact that they were sentenced to that 9 months. So let me use a practical example. So someone goes into the juvenile center, they are registered to do CXC exams. CXC exams starts May, June, but the sentence ends in maybe April. When April comes, you can't keep that person in the center, right? You have to release them. But something should be done about that. Maybe you should be able to work with the court to say, listen, when this child gets the CXC subject that he or she is about to write, we believe it would change their behavior because they would be able now to be more marketable, they'll be more able to better be able to get a job. So maybe we could look at extending that individual time, maybe to the 2 months when the exam is finished, so that at least they have that, they get that opportunity. But as it stands, I don't think we have any system like that.
So you're saying there isn't that option of someone continuing in the program, or even though their time for being at the places has wrapped up, but there isn't that option of to continue, especially if they're going to be doing exams and so forth. So as we said, suppose the exam is 2 months prior to their release. That's it for them in terms of. So how could they be assisted there now?
So that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying it requires some level of collaboration and everybody coming together. So everybody should be on the same page. The juvenile center should be on the same page. The court should be on the same page, because at the end of the day, the goal, there is one common goal. The goal here is to rehabilitate and change the behavior so that that person becomes a better functional individual.
All right. Let's entertain another caller. I guess we lost that caller there. Let's take a break. We come back and we chat some more. Stay with us here, folks. It's To The Point. When we come back, we will be entertaining more of your phone calls from your viewers and listeners out there. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
You mentioned the wing high, then you have things like man, you must come back, you know. We have the low power there.
When you push it, it is kind of like the same man, and it's just different name for the same kind of thing.
And last but not least, I just want to say to all the men who saw me, call me, and ask for a piece of cake. I'm baking this weekend.
Join us Fridays at 8 on GBN Television, K105 FM, GBN's Facebook page, and the YouTube channel for We Culture.
GBN Television News at 7, a pulse on all things Grenadian. Look out for our new features through expanded synergies with our media partners in Barbados, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, and beyond. Capturing the latest in news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Credible, informative. Thank you for making us number one. News at 7, live, Monday to Friday on GBN Television, Channel 7 and 11. K105.5 and 105.9, Hot 98.5 and 98.7, GBN Television Facebook page and YouTube channel, and www.gbn.gd. GBN, with you anywhere and everywhere.
Let me say welcome back, listeners and viewers. It's To The Point for today, Wednesday, the 17th of May. I have with me this morning Dr. Michelle Sabrena Alexander with me this morning. And we're talking lots this morning, especially when it comes to violence and so forth, youngsters reintegrating them back into society, how ways it could be dealt with. Now, Dr. Sabrena, welcome back. I keep saying your second name for some reason or the other, but there's Dr. Michelle Sabrena Alexander for some reason. I think I probably like the Sabrena part. Anyway, welcome back. And I see that maybe we could speak about in this segment. We see from time to time youngsters, may have gotten to the age where they may no longer be accepted at the juvenile center. They commit a particular crime. I'm not sure. Is there a cutoff age for the juvenile center?
18.
So an individual has passed 18, commits a crime, and for whatever reason, he has to go to the Richmond Hills prison. He's now integrated with what we will like to say in simple terms, seasoned criminals. Tell us about that. Do you think it's appropriate, or there should be some way that these youngsters should be separated? No, we're not sure what the conversation that will happen from time to time when they are surrounded with criminals of that nature, and they just getting themselves involved. Is there some way of or you think something should be done in terms of separating individuals from being congregating within seasoned criminals when they, especially at a young age?
Okay. So I don't have the specific statistic, but what I do know is that there is a very high, there seems to be, that's how they term it, right? Persons are graduating from the juvenile center into the prison. So there's a high rate of persons who pass through the juvenile center being Majesty prison. And when they go there again, they are indeed being mixed with these seasoned criminals. And sometimes they use them, maybe because they may have a shorter stint, to commit crimes on the outside due to influence or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe within the prison itself, there should be some sort of separation. The juvenile, well, they're not juveniles anymore, but these young adults should not, in my view, again, that's my view, should not be mixed with persons who we consider to be hardcore criminal. As I said earlier, human behavior is something that is learned. So we have to be very cautious as how we treat these issues. If we want these individuals to experience that level of change and to come and reintegrate, we have to take measures to ensure that that is done. And one of the measures, I believe, is not having them mixed with these individuals.
All right. Interesting. We do have a caller online. Let's go to the phone line. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you.
And good morning to the doctor. I really, really feel pleasant to hear a lot of things that the doctor is saying there. But I want I want some direct help. Some help that not just talk, but something I could realize. I'm having the same kind of problem as you are talking about there now. Deviant children. And when I say children, big men. And causing themselves to be in jail very often. And still not responding. And it is hurting because it is bringing me as an individual down. My life. The police helps at some time. But apparently they're not responding to the police. They go to jail now, they'll come out in the next year or 6 months, they'll be involved in something again. And it is on me directly, and perhaps other people within the parishes and so, right? I want to know what could be, not talk, but what could be done directly. What way can we help people like that? Not a talk show, but a reality something.
All right, thank you, caller. It was a little bit difficult hearing the caller much. He had that radio playing very loud in the background, but I think I understand where he's coming from. I'm not sure if you picked up Doc in terms of what you didn't pick it up at all. You wasn't hearing him for some reason. I'm not sure, but he was actually saying that he's having a problem in terms of where we see people are going to prison from time to time, come back out, and he's saying it's affecting him personally.
Right.
It's affecting him personally in terms of, and he's acting in ways in which he could be assisted in that on that level. I'm not sure if you could respond to him like that.
I didn't get it clearly. He's saying that persons going into prison coming out,
and he's going through the same problem in terms of maybe the rehabilitation process maybe didn't work. And you say rehabilitation is more than just the rehabilitation. You understand? There's more that comes into it. But he's saying that he's looking for ways in which he could be assisted as an individual in society with individuals who commit these crimes and continue to go back and comes back out. And still probably he could be someone he's related to, and he's going through that sort of a problem with him. I'm not sure why you're not here, Doc, but I'm not sure why. I'm not sure.
Okay,
why.
Let me just see if I get what it is you're saying. So he's saying that there are persons who went into the system, comes out from the system, keeps going back into the system.
Yes, he's going back, and it's affecting him because now crimes are being committed by the particular individual who comes back out, You understand? It's affecting him in some way. No, maybe he has thought. Maybe let's for example, he always have to go bail them out or things like that, or offer some assistance where he has always keep getting involved. So he's want to know what kind of assistance he could get.
So that takes me back to the point that we made earlier. Rehabilitation in itself, in isolation, will not work. We have to reach a point where we have programs. So as the caller said earlier, maybe we need to work along with the private sector. So when these individuals come out from prison, once they receive the psychosocial support that they need, they can get a job, or they can go and get some form of training that would empower them to get a job so that they don't commit the same crime. So what we need to see again is the collaborations. Maybe there needs to be some sort of research being conducted to see where we can go, what we can do. Maybe we need to see some sort of reformation, because another thing is these individuals, they too have families. So if you could walk along with them, walk along with their family, walk along with their community, walk along with the business society, the business sector, walk along with whatever government ministry, and ensure that they have something that they're falling back on. Because if they don't have nothing to fall back on, they come out of jail, and I'm using layman terms here, I'm being very layman. You come out from jail, right? You commit a crime. You come back in society, you don't have a job. You cannot buy food, you cannot provide for yourself, you cannot do anything. The next thing you might want to do is to steal. And that again would be you committing another crime, you would be sentenced and you would go back to jail. But if when you come out, you have something to fall back on, there is no need for you to steal to make ends meet, because you were equipped with tools that would help you to be more functional.
Certainly.
So that is,
and a simple word that comes today is distraction. If something distracts you from the norm that you get yourself involved in, you wouldn't get involved in it. So let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning, welcome.
Yes, good morning, GT, and morning to you. Yes, I joined the program late, so I don't know I suspect who, but I don't know too sure. Can you tell me who is the guest?
We have Dr. Michelle Sabrena Alexander with me this morning.
Okay, all right. Not that it's important that the guest is known. I don't want it to be. Good morning, madam.
Good morning.
I would begin by saying that many of the problems that we have as a society are self-inflicted. We are the creators of most of the problems that we have. If you look at how we do life, for instance, we have a dysfunctional society where we have people who go and procreate and don't take responsibility. Of course, there's a genesis for that. It's something we have not reconciled or healed from the past, where our people was regarded mainly for the value on the plantation. And so we continue to exhibit some of the behavior related to that. On top of that, even when we have good intention of bringing up children, the way we deal with the whole issue of discipline, the way we deal with the whole issue of schooling, makes a lot of children, some people are able to survive, but a lot of folks become dysfunctional. And another thing is that we are pretentious. When those countries who created the deviance that we end up having to deal with choose to rid their society of those elements, we close our eyes and say, yeah, they have a right. But they created the problem again, and we are not facing up to it. I know I could go on, but let me say this. I was part of a project in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, in Victoria called Tufton Hall Adventure Project. It was a well-conceived project. Unfortunately, the prisoners involved were problematic, and it went, and the prisoner and the people who had the power over the project. So it failed, but the idea was very good. And in fact, something that was mentioned early on was part of it. It had a therapeutic center. It had a community center. How it worked was that the kids who other people didn't want to work with, and who was, whether the law or so, they were taken in. One of the things was that nobody in the immediate society was involved, was part of the project, no child, because they didn't want to affect the rehabilitation. So most of the kids came from outside, but they had engagement with the immediate community. For instance, they went to school in like a Bonner government school, but came back to spend some time at the community center in Victoria, and then went back up to Tufton Hall, where they did things like gardening and all that kind of thing like that. And it worked. A lot of the kids that came through our system are normal citizens today. So there are blueprints. There are examples where things could work. Unfortunately, we have a big problem with egos in Grenada. So the egos, the people with big egos caused the project to collapse. And I would stop here because I could go on, but I will stop by saying that we are the problem and we need to become the solution. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very, very much for your contribution this morning. I'm not sure if you want to follow up on the caller, Doc.
I have to agree with him. I believe we are part of the problem, and as I said, we need to be part of the solution because we all have a part to play. It affects us in one degree or another. Whilst it may not happen directly to us, whilst the criminal acts or the behaviors may not affect us directly, it does affect us because we are the ones who would be paying taxes, that would have to keep the prison functional and running. So I believe that as members of society, we all have a part to play. If we see a child going down the wrong way, if we see a child committing a crime, it should be our business to pull that child aside and say, listen, this is not the way, right? Maybe this is another way you could use to channel your anger or your frustration or your whatever it is. So we have to be more proactive. We have to play a more active part in dealing with crime and criminal behaviors. We can't just say it's not my business, that is not my child, and have this kind of idea or thought patterns.
Okay, that's entertaining. I guess we lost that call as we move on this morning. It's to the point. You have the opportunity for you. If you have a question or two that you would like to ask, feel free to do so. Let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
No, we've seen all kind of things. Some are true, some are false. For any child to obey, he has to be disciplined. His mind has to be conditioned. This lady is a doctor. She should know that. His mind has to be conditioned. If you have to do anything well, you have to see it as a good thing for you or perhaps the society. You cannot expect to correct a child if he does not see the need for correction. So if you have, many of us, including myself, have certain problem with our brain. Maybe it's not fully developed. Maybe it's distorted for some good reason or the other. Maybe it could be damaged. And you would think that a child or perhaps a man or whoever it is normal. But if we look to the greater beyond, we'll see what have caused the problem. Most people saying, I have 46 sexes, and if you tell them the right thing, they do not change. They feel that that subject gives them the right to do whatever they do. And this could be some of the problems with some of us. We do not want to take corrections. As for me, if people admire people that do wrong, because you could even hear people talking about vulnerable and not vulnerable, and they have assisted to the vulnerability of him, myself. Maybe if If they had gave me the right coaching, I would have been further up. And not only me, most of the people. So we, in society, in our little environment, if we tiffin children learn, we tiffin because everyone in the special environment, or most of us are thieves. If we possibly ostracize them, little could explain what ostracize means. Maybe that may help. Sometimes we have to love them. That may help. Sometimes we have to box them. That may help. We may even have to cough them or even curse them. Try to use different remedies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution this morning. Caller didn't say a whole lot there, Doc. I'm not sure if you picked up in terms of the direction that he was going, but he certainly did say a lot.
Okay, so I think, right, from my perspective again, the type of children that we're dealing with today, right, is not children that we dealt with maybe in the last 20 years. A lot of things have changed. So sometimes, or maybe, some of the things that we use then is a little bit outdated. And I heard the caller making reference to discipline and conditioning. We need to discipline, we need to condition our children. Yes, discipline is important. Yes, if you condition your child psychologically, you may see positive results, but there are other factors, there are other agents. As a mother, I might do everything to ensure that my child is equipped with all the social facts, is well disciplined. But then there are other factors. You have TikTok, you have social media, which is TikTok, you have peers, and you have other agents that would influence children's behavior. So as much as you discipline and as much as you condition, these things can be compromised. And we need to be very open-minded and realize that these factors also have a part to play. We have nature. That's why we have a balance of nature versus nurture. Right. So we cannot isolate the other agents of socialization.
Okay. Let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello, good morning, caller. Go right ahead, please.
Good morning, GT. How are you doing?
Not too bad at all. Go right ahead with your contribution, please.
All right. I've been listening to the programs. I'm calling from way up in the Arctic Circle. And it's interesting to know that I've been listening to these programs all the years from 1972 right up to today, 2023. And there are recommendations made by so many people in so many offices with so many governments, and nothing has changed. I would like to know, why are there any movements in regards of change in the society for the criminality that is persistent presently, and that the RGPF, which actually is not recommended in regards to the Caribbean CARICOM society as being a monarchy, so that we could attend to our own internal differences of rehabilitation as the prisoners coming out and going back in, because there is nothing in between, like a way house system that they have things to attend to. And if they could go back in society as a norm person who has been rehabilitated, what is the purpose of the rehabilitation process? That's what I would like to know.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution this morning. Thank you. Doc, you want to chime in on that?
I didn't hear him that clear.
You didn't get him that clear?
What I heard, you're asking what is being done. So let me just add something here. As I mentioned earlier, I'm the founder of the Bridge Learning Institute, right? And we deal with empowering individuals, giving individuals a second chance so that they could be more functional in society. From where I sit, I must say that that is something that the government of the day is very passionate about. In fact, we have received a subvention and we are offering our services to the prison, where we go in 3 days a week and deliver we offer, as it stands, we offer English A, so we give prisoners the opportunity to acquire that subject so that, when they come out, at least they have something that they can fall back on. We are looking at expanding the reach of the program within the prison as well so that, it can help with the reintegration process back into society.
All right. Dr. Alexander, I'm not sure there's any closing statement you want to make. We got to a time where we have to wrap today's program. Anything in closing you want to say before we take a wrap for today?
Well, in closing, thank you for having me. Let me see that first. And in closing, I just want to say that we all have a part to play as it relates to ending or curbing, not ending because we may not end it entirely, but curbing crime and violence. And we should play that part to the very best of our ability. If there are persons out there who feel like they don't have anything to fall back on, they would like to empower themselves, they would like to add value to themselves, feel free to reach out to me. If it's okay, I can provide a number, which is 421-8122. Repeat, 421-8122. You can, continue to add value to yourself and give yourself a second chance. You have no reasons to fall victim to society because there are systems, there are measures, there are programs, there are things in place that could help you become more functional.
All right. Dr. Alexander, I want to thank you once again. It's a pleasure having you this morning. I hope we could do this another time again, of course, and get more in depth into this. I want to wish you all the best for the rest of the day. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, folks, that's where we come to the end of To The Point for today. I want to thank all who contributed some way or other, whether it's by your phone call, you sat at home, you listened, you called in, those of you via our social media platform, you made your comments. I want to thank you so much. Until we have another program again, which will be tomorrow, once the Almighty permits, health, strength, and everything else in between, I will be here. Until then, have yourself a good one, folks. That's where we say goodbye for this edition of To The Point. Goodbye. Be good to yourself and others, as always.